Welcome to Super Talk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. YouTube, good show for you today. Episode 58, Super Talk Podcast. Buckle up, people.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, Professor. As always, like a gentleman that you are, in 3.
Welcome to Super Talk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode number 58, and I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis. And with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium, episode 58. We're here to talk about some really crazy crap this week.
First of all, let me get something out of the way.
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think we celebrated your birthday. I mean, last year, we had costume guests with cupcakes singing happy birthday.
Yeah, that got a lot of views on YouTube, I'm sure. Yeah.
And our wives dressed up in cosplay, and they came down and sang happy birthday. But it's just me this time. I can dress up next time if you like.
No,
I'm good.
You always look good, Titanium. So
thanks. But happy birthday, brother.
Thank you. I was able to.
Lovely dinner last night.
Yeah, we went out for a nice dinner last night with you guys, and last week on my birthday, I was able to fly to Arizona, and I want to thank my hosts, Daniel and Nazik, for inviting me out to Arizona for a few days and have some warm weather and played a little golf and drank a little wine and ate some good food. But yeah, it was a great time, and I'm back. My lips are
to his
chapped.
guests. He was absolutely gloating last night about what a great time he had and how much wine he drank.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So great diversion. You know, where we live here in the Washington D.C. area, about this time of year, you kind of get the winter doldrums a little bit. You know, it's overcast and a little cold, and just like, you know, and to go out there and have sunshine and just good weather for a few days, it was just great recharge.
Thank you for taking care of the professor out there, and happy birthday, brother.
Thank you, man.
I like your shirt.
Yeah, this was a birthday gift from the Estrellas last night. Got a nice little
Doctor Strange
shirt.
It's appropriate.
We'll be talking about him a little bit tonight, for sure. And then we want to also talk about, you're going to be at the Fairfax Comic-Con coming up here Saturday, March 5th, Chantilly Expo Center. Super Talk will have a booth there, and Titanium will be making an appearance. And for those of you in the area, please stop by, say hello, grab a sticker, support the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Batman with anybody who wants to talk. So come up. Let's talk. I'll be taking notes. Maybe you make the podcast. We'll be doing the podcast later on that weekend. But come talk to me about the Batman. I hope that it's as good as I want it to be.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
We're seeing that 2 nights earlier. Comes out, officially March 4th. We're seeing it on the 3rd, and you will have a lot of fresh thoughts on your minds as well as everybody else at the Comic-Con. So,
boy, I hope it delivers. I saw a little clip, and I was underwhelmed by the clip that I saw. So I hope that does not carry on through the whole movie. But let's get this show started. Let's start the school.
All right. Well, first we want to thank the patrons. These are the listeners that bring the show to you. Patreon.com/supertalk. If you'd like to become a patron, it costs you $1 per every time we bring out an episode, and that's the way you can support the show directly. Thanks to those of you out there that do that today. We really appreciate it, and it helps us support the audience because we buy swag and give it away at Comic-Con. So thank you so much for that. But if you'd like to join, patreon.com/supertalk. That's how you join.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Let's jump into the review section. And we got a nice finale this week. The Peacemaker series on HBO Max reached its climax in more ways than one. And I tell you what, we've been gloating about how much we've enjoyed this show. It's been a great time because nothing else is really coming out that's been new, but it's been a fresh breath of air every week for us to get this episode, and Now it's gone, but you know what? The finale delivered. I mean, it really did tie up everything.
Big time.
It was awesome.
Yeah, great writing, great finale. Usually the finales of these TV series are a little bit of a letdown. The episode before the finale is usually better than the actual finale. A lot of loose ends that need to be tied up, and James Gunn did a hell of a job. Congratulations to James Gunn, if he's watching. I doubt he is, or if he's listening, but congratulations to James Gunn. He is engaged to Jennifer Holland, Hardcourt.
Who plays Hardcourt in the show, right?
Yeah, they got engaged, so congratulations to him.
Well, and as we found out in the show, she's still on the show, or theoretically, so she's going to be working again, which is keeps her employed and gives her a ring. So that's pretty good, and she is a smoke show for sure.
No question, it gives nerds out there all the hope in the world. Not that James Gunn's a stunning young man; he's a good-looking dude. So good for him. Congratulations.
Yeah. But yeah, it was. We'll kind of just run through the episode real quick. But it was really fantastic. After last week's episode, where Peacemaker had killed his father, and they were kind of regrouping after Murn dying and not really sure what to do, and they're like, "Screw it, we got to keep moving forward with the mission. We got to take out the cow. It's the only way to defeat the butterflies, right?" And so they're literally the first scene of the show.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, there's some major spoilers coming. Just FYI. So spoiler alert.
If you haven't watched the finale.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Click pause, go watch it, and then come back and listen to the rest of the show.
But that first scene with them in the vet ambulance, they had taken a vet ambulance from the veterinarian office that they had helped Eagly at, and the scene between Leota and Peacemaker where she's trying to apologize to him, and he's like. Like the whole time, it was so hysterical.
You know what it reminded me of?
Vigilante gets into the act.
It reminded me of when, in Guardians of the Galaxy, when the guy, what's his name? The blue guy, the father that died.
Yondu.
Yondu is trying to sell. He goes into that museum with the guy with the eyebrows and Xandar. And he's like saying, and he's trying to, it's like, Xandar is, and he's like, high end. It reminded me of that scene. It was so great and hilarious.
That's a good recall.
Isn't it?
That's good recall.
I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. And Leota was great in that. She played it. I mean, I think her first job in the very beginning was she was working for an animal shelter. It's funny how it came full circle, and she ends up in this animal van, But that was a great back and forth. Just brilliant writing.
And it was, her attempt to apologize. Say, look, and Peacemaker ultimately says, look, I thought you were my friend, and she's like, I am, and they kind of came to grips there. But the whole story that they go into of how they're going to take this cow down, they get to the site of where the cow is, and they see how many butterflies are there, and they're like, oh my god, we can't do this by ourselves. And Leota calls her mom, Amanda Waller, right, and says, hey, you need to send backup, like right now, call the Justice League. So we're way outnumbered, and Waller's like, that ain't happening. They're not getting there in time. Harcourt's in charge. You guys sit back. And they're like, well, crap, it's all on us.
She
right?
gets on the phone, yes, mom, and hangs up on her.
Right. Yeah. And so they come up with this great plan. So they have all of Peacemaker's helmets that they had taken from his father's warehouse, and one of them, the sonic boom helmet that he used to take down the first butterfly in the first episode. He's like, oh, that's sonic boom. And they're like, oh, I've got a plan. We just need to get it onto the roof of the barn, and we'll set it off remotely with a walkie-talkie. And
right.
Like, oh, that's fantastic. Great idea. And Peacemaker's like, Eagly can fly it over there. Oh, no, they had the anti-gravity helmet first. And she accidentally says...
Leota accidentally
says activate anti-gravity. That's all we have to do is say activate anti-gravity, and we can float over there, and then the helmet just starts floating off in the air. It was so great.
That was great. He was so pissed. He was like, did you say activate the anti-gravity? She's like, I might have. That was hilarious. Yeah, and then he tries to get Eagly to fly over there. That was a funny scene.
Oh,
him and Vigilante.
And they're like talking, and Eagly, all of a sudden he grabs the helmet and he starts flying away. They're like, he's doing it. And then he just like turns and goes into the woods and drops it.
Yeah.
And then they all have to go find it and hunt for it and everything else. And that's where we get a scene with Peacemaker sees the ghost of his father, who's obviously still haunting him. And he says, you're never going to get rid of me. And then Peacemaker takes out his dart gun. And he's like, what are you doing, boy? Pull your gun. And he's like, no, that would let him know I'm here. I'm going to use a silent killer. It's like, so he hits him in the head. Yeah, it's so great.
That just tells you how disturbed
messed up
he still is from his father. Yeah, he's having visions of him. Hardcore actually sees him try to kill him. He blows a dart into the tree. From Peacemaker's view, he hits his father in the forehead and kills him again. That was funny.
Yeah, but then they find the helmet. That's how they find the helmet. And Peacemaker then takes out one of the guards who's kind of on the perimeter and brings the uniform back to Economist and says, hey, you need to put this on. And he's like, why is it wet? He goes, well, a lot of people don't know that, at the moment of death, a lot of people shit themselves. And he's like, I'm wearing shit pants?
No, I watched it in the stream.
I watched it in the stream. He says, I'm wearing diarrhea pants? Well, no, I didn't say it was diarrhea. Was it diarrhea? Yes, it was diarrhea.
That was funny.
It's great. So they make him dress up as one of the police.
Yeah.
And Economist now is the only one that they wouldn't recognize. So he's walking to the barn with, the helmet in a bag. And a couple of them stop him, and he kind of, creatively is able to get by them. But he drops he doesn't go all the way to the basement or the cave. He just like freaks out like halfway down the stairs when he sees the cow the first time. Yeah. He freaks out.
He's like, there's a kaiju down here. There's a kaiju down here.
Right.
So funny.
Drops the bag and just runs. And then they're all chasing him. And then Leota sets off the helmet remotely. And I believe it was like 3 or 4 charges before it
was out.
It peters out.
Yeah.
But it did kind of totally destroy the
barn, took out a lot of the butterflies.
The barn took a lot of butterflies, took down the stairs, and we saw the teleportation device that they had built in the cave was starting to collapse. So it did what it was designed to do. What they hoped it would do was like really kind of thwarting their plans to get this cow.
They were hoping to get it all the way down there, and one of the butterflies brought it back up to the surface. So it did a lot of damage, but it would have done way more damage if it was down by the actual cow. The cow is just some kind of giant worm-type creature. He's huge, and these really big eyes. It's such a bizarre creature, but I thought it was great. That was a cool scene.
Yeah, and then they basically were like, well, we kind of gotta get down there. We gotta take this thing out. And Peacemaker and Harcourt and Vigilante are like, we're just going. And they rushed the butterflies, who were kind of devastated from the sonic boom thing. And a massive like gunfight, like Vigilante's just cutting people in half, and Peacemaker's using his shield and throwing people up in the air and stabbing them with his shield. I mean, it was a great fight scene.
Awesome fight scene.
It was awesome. I couldn't believe how well it was choreographed.
Vigilante, you could really he highlighted his fighting skills and what a badass he was.
He was just tearing people apart with his sword,
cutting off arms, cutting off heads.
Yeah, it was very violent, which was great.
Yeah.
And then ultimately they were like, Peacemaker, go, go, go. And then he runs into the barn, and Vigilante and Harcourt are out there trying to hold everybody off. And then they end up getting shot. Both of them do pretty badly. Harcourt gets shot pretty bad. And then one of they do end up killing the queen, or what was her name? Officer Soto, whoever, the Asian police officer. They did end up killing her, but the butterfly came out and was going to go fly into Harcourt. And then Leota comes up right before it like gets into her mouth and pulls it out and kind of saves her from being
one of the butterflies, because the main queen is still down there with
right. Yeah, it was a different butterfly. It was going to infect Harcourt.
And Leota bounces out. She was supposed to stay behind so that she could.
And she was tearing ass with those guns.
She took guns and she was like rolling and shooting sideways, and she was a badass.
Yeah, and she kind of saved everybody, and then Economist had broken his leg when he tried to jump the fence. So funny. But then he had crawled his way there with the human torpedo helmet. And Peacemaker had said earlier in the episode, nobody uses that. He said, unless you want to have every bone in your body broken, that's just like the dumbest helmet ever. Well, Leota puts it on. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go help, and she's like searching. And what happened is Peacemaker had walked down the stairs, and the stairs collapsed, and he fell through some hole in the ground. And he was buried by all this debris.
He's trapped.
And she was going down there to try to find him, and she gets really close to him, and he gets pulled out. We think it's her pulling him out, but it's actually the queen butterfly.
Goth. It's Goth. Yeah,
pulling her out.
Yeah,
pulling him out, and they fight for a little bit, and Leota sees him. And she says, "Activate human torpedo," and slams herself into the wall.
She misses completely.
And almost knocks herself out. But ultimately, Goth ends up trying to convince Peacemaker to help them.
Yeah, so the butterflies, their main objective isn't to take over the world.
They came to Earth because their planet had run out of natural resources, and they came here and realized that humans are doing the same thing here, and they were like, we're going to help them stop what happened on our planet.
Yeah, their whole backstory was their planet was decimated. They did it, and they see what's happening to Earth, and they're saying, these humans, if we don't intervene and stop them, are going to do the same thing to themselves. So, for the greater good, we're going to kill a few of these and impose our own will. And it kind of resonates with Peacemaker, right? Because
she said that, right?
She's like, this is what you're all about,
right? You're all about peace. You're all about stopping wars and
the planet,
saving the planet and everything else. So fulfill your mission is what she says. I need you to go pull that switch because the two of us need to operate this machine while you pull that switch. I need your help. You're the only one that can do it,
right?
And he looks at her and he says, "No, fuck that."
Yeah.
And he sees Leota kind of stumbling over with the helmet on. He says, "Activate human torpedo," and she goes flying straight into the cow, just completely penetrates the cow at the heart, and comes down in some big blob of goo, basically, and she comes flying out of it. Like, what the heck?
Are you kidding me? That was hilarious. What a great way to kill the cow. I guess what a great way to kill. And the name of the episode was. What was it called? The Cow Now or something? It was pretty clever, but what a great activate human torpedo, and she goes into it. And that was reminiscent of when Drax jumps into the mouth of that interdimensional creature from Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's like,
the second movie.
And then he comes plopping out of it. Yeah, that was hilarious. Very reminiscent, but what a great story. And then finally Peacemaker kills the police sergeant that Goth has taken over, and Goth comes flying out and flies away. But pretty good ending of a scene there, I thought. Yeah,
and then we got like the big
cameo
as they're walking away. Harcourt's severely injured, been shot a few times, and not doing well. Peacemaker picks her up, and he's carrying her off the field, and the rest of them are walking back towards the van, and then you see who flies in.
Yeah, Superman flies in, and then you see the Flash come in, and
it's the Justice League. They show up.
Well, some of the Justice League.
Well, it's Superman, the Flash, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman.
Right.
The four of them show up.
Wonder Woman and Superman are kind of darked out, shadowed out a little bit. You could definitely tell who they are, and you can see them. You just can't get facial recognition from them. And then he just comes back, you're late, dickheads.
Yeah, you're late, dickheads, right? He says that. He said, go fuck a fish. He says that to Aquaman. And it was Jason Momoa had come back to film the scene, and he said, man, I hate that rumor. And it's Ezra Miller playing Barry Allen, the Flash. He goes, it's not a rumor, dude. And he goes, fuck you, Barry. It was so great.
That was
just awesome. To have them cameo was just so great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It was actually brilliant. I mean, that's why that show did 44% higher viewership than the opening show. The finale had 44%.
Because of the cameo?
I think because of the cameo. A lot of people heard. Once it happened, a lot of people resonated with people. And the word of mouth of that show, it's the #1 HBO Max original series on HBO. Now, granted, It's HBO Max, right? Not HBO, not Game of Thrones or any of the Sopranos or any of those. No, it's HBO Max, which has had some pretty good original series, but that's the number one show so far.
It did very well, and we get a little kind of end of the show where they're all in the hospital and Harcourt is going into surgery. She's going to be okay, and
they have a moment there.
Yeah. And then Vigilante's like, I'll be fine. I just need a nap, and then he collapses on the floor. And he obviously needs attention as well, and you get a good scene with Leota and Peacemaker, kind of like
making amends,
bumping fists, and saying we did it, and all that other stuff. So it did end up and from what we hear. You mentioned this to me earlier this week, Titanium. It's already been greenlit for a season 2. So we are going to get a season 2 of Peacemaker.
Yep.
And well-deserved. I mean, the show did very well. John Cena just killed it. I think there's no reason why this team can't go on some new missions in another season. It's going to be awesome. But the other thing we hear is that James Gunn also has another character from the Suicide Squad movie that he's written an original series for on HBO Max, and that one may be coming first.
Yeah.
We don't know which character that is. We don't know who that is, but he's taken a character from the Suicide Squad and is going to be doing another original series on HBO Max for that character. Who do you think it is?
I have no idea. It might be Harley Quinn.
That would be a big get.
That would be a huge get, yeah.
Margot Robbie in her own limited series, that'd be a big get.
Well, I don't know.
But she
who personally I would love to do it? Polka Dot Man.
Did he survive? I thought
he did not survive. No, he died. But
that's what I'm saying. But I think about the people that were alive. It would be Ratcatcher, who's still alive. And could that character hold a series?
No, I don't think so.
It would be King Shark.
King Shark?
Maybe.
That'd be a lot of CG, very expensive.
Right. Peacemaker we know survived because he got his own. And then it would be Deathshot, right? So Idris Elba's character.
Yeah.
So
that would be a huge get actor-wise too.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, he's got plans. He's already written it. So it's somebody.
Brilliant. It's probably
Weasel was the other one that survived.
Weasel's the one. Not a big star to carry its own series though, but huge show for DC. It's rated the number one DC show, I think. It's probably the best DC show, and I liked a lot of them, Teen Titans and all the rest of them.
Look, the fact of the matter is, James Gunn, I think, can write anything, and it will be entertaining. Everything he's ever written has been entertaining.
Well, James Gunn has come out and said openly that after Guardians 3, he is going to take time off from films and going to focus on TV series. He's developing the Suicide Squad TV series that you were just talking about with another member. He's going to do Peacemaker 2, and those he's going to be personally involved in, but he's also developing with other writers. He might not write the whole thing, he might not direct it, he said, but I'm involved in other shows that I'm going to have involvement in.
So limited series.
So
do you think he's because we know that DC's doing a Batgirl series on HBO Max. Do you think he's involved in that in some capacity?
I think after this and the success of this and what Warner Brothers said, his Suicide Squad did not do well in the theater. I mean, it was good. It's a great movie.
If you remember, it was given away for free on HBO Max as well, so it did not get an exclusive run in the theaters.
That is true. And so it kind of, I think Warner Brother was like, ooh, what's going on here? And then after this series, I think they're going to write him an empty check to do whatever he wants. Why not? I mean, it's a great get for them. So what a great series. Watch it from front to start. And here's another thing that do you think because of its popularity and how the show escalated on HBO Max from the first watch to the season finale, do you think the time drop is now becoming a better viable thing for shows instead of the complete like Netflix kind of book where they drop the whole series and binge watch?
You and I talked about this a little bit last night. I think the way that Netflix did this and still does this today, which is great, or for the most part, they have some like Ozark, I know they're doing like 2 separate seasons, and they've done with Stranger Things. They're going to be doing in 2 separate seasons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think what they're doing is they're dropping series, but then they're dropping part 2 later because they know that after the major drop of a series, people are so hyped about it, but you don't get that word of mouth. You get people talking about it for a month or 2, and then it's done. With this, you get months of people talking about it.
I mean, look, we're talking about it 1 episode at a time, right? If we got the whole series dropped, we may bundle a couple into 1 episode. So, I mean, I like, for example, when The Witcher came out on Netflix, I like to be able to watch it at my pace, watch the whole thing. Right. If I want to do it in 1 day or 2 days or a weekend or whatever, I can do that. Right. That was the same thing with all the Marvel series on Netflix. They dropped all 13 episodes at once, and you could just watch them at your own pace. But I think with Disney Plus and what HBO's done and Amazon and a bunch of others, they're now doing it release 1 week at a time, and it's a way to keep people subscribed. Because if I want to watch The Witcher, for example, I can subscribe to Netflix for a month, pay 1 month, and watch as much as I want, and then cancel it. Yeah. Whereas if I know that that's going to take 13 consecutive weeks before that series is over, I'm going to stay a subscriber that much longer. So, unfortunately, I think that's here to stay. Those of us who are already subscribers of this stuff, it really doesn't affect us more than we just have to wait a week to see some of the things we want to see. But I think it's here to stay.
I agree with you 100%, but I think it's twofold. I think also the word of mouth and the hype, it can escalate through the series releases week by week by week. I think it gets people more excited and more hyped about it and talking about it. It's cooler talk,
that's
right?
That's what we did when we first started this show with WandaVision. And all we did was start, talking about each episode and, estimating that Mephisto and the Blue Marvel and all these other people were coming to the show. That's what I think you're right. That kind of builds as the episodes get released. So
excellent. Peacemaker was a home run.
It was great. So thank you, HBO Max and James Gunn. That was a really great series, and we can't wait.
The cameo was outstanding.
I didn't know it was happening. I hadn't heard anything about it. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, that's pretty damn cool."
That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
And for Momoa and Ezra Miller to be there to actually film that scene, that was really cool too.
Well, apparently, Ezra Miller, his scheduling was kind of wacky, so James Gunn is actually filming Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The Marvel crew actually filmed his
Ezra Miller's scene.
They did it for him. He got the okay.
That's why it was like kind of a cutaway.
It was a cutaway. Yeah. I thought that was cool that Marvel was like, yeah, James, absolutely. Yeah,
you can come out to Atlanta. You don't have to be in LA. Come out to Atlanta. We can do it here.
Sure.
Right.
That's pretty cool. So great collaboration there. But that just shows you the respect that James Gunn is pulling now. He's going to do great things, and I'll watch any series he puts on HBO Max.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the news section this week, and really what we want to talk about are what the trailers that dropped on Super Bowl Sunday. Again, last week we recorded our episode right before the Super Bowl, and we were anticipating some trailers being dropped on Super Bowl Sunday, and we got some.
Oh, so, boy, did we.
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised, and they came early, so they came... I think
the MoonKnight was first, and it was before the game even started.
Right, it was during the pregame or right when the main coverage started. We got the MoonKnight trailer, and then Doctor Strange hit literally like within the first 5 minutes of the football game. We got that early trailer, too. And then we got the other one was the DC we'll call it the DC Heroes trailer, which was the World Needs Heroes.
World Needs Heroes, right? Yeah, that was the theme,
and that was kind of like a little bit some clips here and there of a bunch of different movies and projects.
Scissor reel, yeah. And we got a lot more. We got a lot more Flash in that movie. We got a lot more everything. We started with Batman. We got Black Adam. I'm telling you, that movie looks sick.
And The Rock, he opened the Super Bowl, right? So he was kind of like one of the main celebrities that opened the Super Bowl.
Did he really need to do that? That was kind of cheesy.
Yeah, but introduced the people that were coming out for the coin flip. I guess that was his job. But you know what? And we'll just talk about each one individually. I think the DC one, again, to your point, it was a scissor reel. We got some clips here and there of a bunch of the different projects, the Batman movie, the Flash movie, a little bit more of the Aquaman movie. We saw Jason Momoa in his full new costume, which was great. Yeah. And then we got Black Adam, some good scenes of Black Adam in that as well. So
we got some good scenes of the other characters, Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher. Hawkman.
Hawkman looked really good.
Oh man, it exceeded my expectations because I was like, man, how are they going to do this with real feathers, or how are they going to modernize this? And I was very pleasantly surprised at how they interpreted Hawkman. Great character, and man, he looked badass. So I cannot wait for that movie. I really am looking forward to it.
Black Adam is going to be very good, I have a feeling. But we got that one. And the Moon Knight trailer was, I think, a little bit more insight into some of the plot of the movie.
Out of everything, though, that was probably disappointing for me.
Well, the least new material. They repeated a lot of stuff we'd already seen.
Right.
It was a little bit more dialogue from Ethan Hawke's character, talking a little bit more, him directly speaking to Mark Spector / whoever, whatever his personality was at the time. You did
Stevie Grant.
Yeah, you did Steven. Steven. So there was a lot of that. But yeah, I'm super excited for that series. I mean, I think that's going to be a game changer. And again, we're going to get into him a little bit here in a couple of weeks, right before the Moon Knight series does kick off on Disney Plus. We'll do a whole preview of the Moon Knight character and his history, but he is really a complex character with some really cool powers, and just going to be fun to watch come to life on a television screen. Dissociated Identity Disorder.
DID. Dissociated Identity Disorder is what he has. So multiple personalities. I think it's going to be great. We got a really good, another shot of Khonshu, the moon god, in this. Really not a full shot of him, but his presence. So this is really cool. When Ethan Hawke says, I think his character's name is Arthur Holloway, or Holloway? Hallow.
Okay.
I butchered it. I know.
Yeah.
I butcher names.
Everybody expects that at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he says, there's chaos in you. You need to, embrace the chaos in you. And he's got something weird about him. He's like kind of like a cult leader. And we see that he's got this staff with these two alligator heads on it. And I think he uses that staff to create some lightning or something. It's very interesting. I can't wait to see where this goes. Not as much in depth as the Doctor Strange trailer. You're right. We did see a lot of the same stuff, but really cool.
Yeah.
And Kevin Feige has hit social media in some of these interviews and said that this is something different. This is Moon Knight. This is brutal. It's harsh. There are scenes where he's wailing on someone, and it's graphic and sounds like very brutal. And my first knee-jerk reaction was like, are we going to pull back from that? And then again, no, we're not. We're going for it. It's a tonal change in the Marvel universe. So I'm looking forward to this. If they're going to bring, Daredevil, the Punisher, they need to start embracing this, what fans expect of these characters.
Well, and I think that, again, you and I have alluded to this. I think what they're doing is they're really setting up this, Midnight Suns kind of team where, like, there's, Moon Knight, I think eventually with Blade. And the Black Knight and potentially Ghost Rider and the Punisher and others, I think, and Morbius, potentially as well. I think they're putting together this team of individuals who are going to fight supernatural threats, and, introducing a character like Moon Knight as one of the people who's going to be integral into that future of Marvel. I mean, they could center some series on Disney Plus around each one of those characters, but also the team of those characters for years, and it would be entertaining. So, I mean, I think that this is just really, really setting a great stage for them.
It's exciting, and I hope you are right. But we'll find out. March 30th, it's a 6-episode series.
Yeah, Thursday, March 30th, I believe, is when it releases. And that's an exciting time because we get that March 30th, and we get Morbius, the movie, on April 1st.
Yeah.
Right the next day. So, man, that'll be an exciting time for us.
That'll be a great episode. Check out our episode on those two.
Yeah. But then, let's talk really about what everybody has been talking about this week, and that's the new Doctor Strange trailer. And it was the full trailer. So we got a teaser at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. Kind of gave us some insights into the plot, who some of the characters, and really kind of created more questions than it answered. Well, this one was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, buddy.
And all it did was send the internet on this massive frenzy because we got confirmation of something that we thought was going to happen. A modern day version of the Illuminati, which we believe is going to be prevalent in this movie, and then some things that might be going forward. And that's our topic of the week this week. We'll talk about the Illuminati from the comic books, but we get a scene of Doctor Strange, in handcuffs being escorted into a room by what looked like Ultron variant robots, which is another thing that people were all excited about. He gets escorted.
You know what those robots kind of look like? Ultraman. Didn't they?
A little bit.
Didn't they?
But they look more like the original Ultron. They look like the Ultron bots from Age of Ultron.
They did. Yeah. But their eyes were like Ultraman eyes. I thought they were so cool. And their face kind of looked like Ultraman. I don't think they're all Ultron bots.
We'll see. But, he gets marched into, what we see looks like a courtroom of some kind or tribunal of some kind. And there's 6 chairs sitting on top of this high balcony, and there's people in them. And Doctor Strange.
Some of the chairs are empty.
Yeah. And Doctor Strange gets brought in front of it, and we hear the voice of Patrick Stewart.
Absolutely, Patrick Stewart.
Say, we should tell him the truth.
Right.
And oh my God,
I freaked out.
Freaking Professor X.
Yeah.
And everybody freaked out. Everybody freaked out about this. Yeah. So, and some of the other scenes were really good too. That we got some clips of some other things going on in there.
Let me preface all this trailer by this. They filmed this movie. It was in the can. Then they did reshoots. They did over 6 weeks of reshoots, which is enough to film a whole new movie.
Right. And
then rumor has it is that they're still doing reshoots now, currently, before the movie even launches in a month? 100 and something days?
Well, 2.5 months, but
2.5 months. They're still doing shoots. So I think a lot of it is misdirection. I will be extremely upset if Patrick Stewart is a variant of another Doctor Strange or something, and we got bonered on this.
No,
did we get bonered on this?
I don't think they did that.
Professor, are we getting bonered on this? I hope not. I think you're absolutely correct. I think we're going to see the Illuminati. And I guess we'll get into more of that a little bit later of who that is and who's in the Illuminati.
So, but the rumors around who is now cameoing in this movie, who's going to make a cameo,
is on fire.
Off the charts.
Off the charts.
So, I guess Ryan Reynolds has a new movie coming out on Netflix in a couple weeks, and he's doing promotion. It's called something the Adam Project.
Adam Project. Yeah, it's a sci-fi flick.
So he's coming out with a movie on Netflix, and he was interviewed a couple days ago, and they asked him, hey, how's Deadpool 3 going? And then they're like, any chance you make a cameo in Doctor Strange? He goes, oh, well, I'm not in that movie. And as we saw from Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I mean, that's the first thing that they tell you at Marvel is to deny that you're even in the movie.
Right.
But if there's a movie for him to make a cameo in, it would be this movie.
I would think so.
Oh, he's going to be. I mean,
I think
even if it's like there was like something in the shattered poster or whatever that looked like Deadpool. Right?
It looked like Deadpool. Yeah, there was one of the shards of glass, and I've studied that poster quite a bit and done a lot of research on it. But in one of the shards of glass, it looks like Deadpool, and he could be right. He might not be in that movie.
But even if it's for 30 seconds.
It could be a cameo in that movie. And he wasn't asked that. He said, are you in that movie? Right. He said, oh, I'm not in that movie. That's just a rumor.
But even a cameo of him just like showing up in one scene or something.
People would lose their shit.
Oh, my God.
Would lose their
shit.
And
it's the place to do it.
There's rumors that if it is in fact Professor X, which I believe it is, Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, will we see other mutants? Will we see a Wolverine? Maybe not the Wolverine, not Hugh Jackman Wolverine, but we might version.
Because we know that Marvel spoke to both Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman about coming back for this movie specifically.
Yes,
because they both confirmed that they were spoken about that, and they said they told Kevin Feige, we don't want to take away from what we felt that we did with these characters in the Logan movie. Like, that was the end of the chapter. That, like, closed the storybook on both of these characters. We don't want to change that.
Right.
But this movie allows them to appear as their characters without changing that story, because they could be variants of those characters.
Correct.
From other multiverses.
Exactly. And that's what we might not see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but we could see him.
We might. And this is where John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic is going to show up, and then Tom Cruise as Iron Man. We do believe pretty convincingly that we're going to see Haley Atwell playing Captain Carter,
absolutely,
from the What If series. She's going to be part of that Illuminati team, potentially part of that, or definitely a cameo in this, or in this in some aspect or way, shape, or form. And we saw in that trailer a version of Captain Marvel, but it was an African American version of Captain Marvel. And again, what people have done with slow-mo and everything else, it's the girl who played
Monica Rambeau.
Not Monica Rambeau. It's
Maria?
her mother, Maria Rambeau. Her mother in the Captain Marvel movie ends up becoming Captain Marvel in another multiverse, and that's who is going to come into this movie as Captain Marvel.
She was flying the jet with Marvel.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that's the theory there.
Whether that's Photon.
But we see a scene in the trailer of Wanda fighting a Captain Marvel character, but it's an African American Captain Marvel.
Oh, absolutely. So we don't know if that's Photon. We don't know if that's Captain Marvel. We don't know if that's Monica Rambeau or Maria Rambeau.
Right.
But it's definitely some with the same power set as Captain Marvel.
Right.
That's going to be exciting to find out.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the rumors are off the charts of who's going to appear in this movie, who's going to make a cameo.
I mean, Tom Cruise as Superior Iron Man.
The guy who originally played Mr. Fantastic in the original Fantastic Four movies, he may be coming back as Mr. Fantastic. They said
Black Bolt.
The guy who played Black Bolt in the Inhumans TV, in the Humans TV series, may be coming back for that.
So the Black Bolt is the leader of the Inhumans, and he's on the Illuminati. They're saying he could come back for it. And there's a big rumor out there and a lot of speculation that he is signed on it. So he might be in this movie. We could get introduced to the Fantastic Four. We could get mutants in the MCU. We could get a reverse House of M, where instead of eliminating all mutants, she creates all mutants to bring her children back. My theory is that that I think Scarlet Witch is the protagonist in this. I think she's the big evil in it.
Antagonist, I'm
sorry. And I think that the Darkhold has corrupted her.
So I think she's probably the villain of the movie, at least early on. You know, ultimately, does she be the end-all villain that they're fighting against? We're not sure.
We're not sure yet, but I think she's definitely a part of it. I think they go on some quest. American Chavez and Doctor Strange go on some quest to find the anti-Darkhold book, the Book of Vishanti. That is obviously in the poster. It's been noted in the poster, and a lot of people have researched it. One of the shards of glass has the Book of Vishanti in it, so we know that book is in there, which is basically a white magic, not dark magic like the Darkhold. It's a white magic.
And we saw in the trailer multiple variants of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So we saw our Stephen Strange from the MCU. We saw another Stephen Strange who had a ponytail, and they're calling him Defender Strange. Yeah. And then we saw the one with the beard from Strange Supreme, potentially from the
evil Doctor Strange,
the evil Doctor, or the corrupted Doctor Strange from the What If series, potentially in. And then we saw zombie Doctor Strange.
Oh, I got a theory of that. Could that zombie Doctor Strange be Nightmare?
I thought that too. When I saw that, everybody's like, "Oh, it's zombie Doctor Strange," and I'm like, that looks more like Nightmare than it does to zombie Doctor Strange.
Could it be Nightmare?
It could be.
With the same kind of power set.
And maybe in some alternate universe, Doctor Strange is the Nightmare character because he's been corrupted by the Darkhold or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the beginning of the trailer when he says, I have these dreams, and then I wake up and the nightmare begins.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
We always thought, when Scott Derrickson was attached to this project, before Sam Raimi took over, when Scott Derrickson was the guy doing the movie, when we first heard about it in Comic-Con, he basically came out and said, we're making a horror film. Yeah. We are making a Marvel horror film, and this is going to be a scary movie. And of course, all of us were like, okay, they're introducing the Nightmare character.
Sure.
They're bringing Nightmare because it's one of Doctor Strange's biggest adversaries. In his comic books is the Nightmare character, and we're like, oh, that makes all kinds of sense. And when I saw that, 6-armed, what they were calling zombie Doctor Strange, I'm like, that might be Nightmare. That was for my first thought.
Or he's possessed by a Doctor Strange variant is possessed by Nightmare.
Yeah, but then there was a clip of zombie Wanda as well.
Yeah,
zombie Wanda from the What If series, right?
This has got so many twists and turns. There is no telling who can show up in this and what is going to happen. Guys, if you haven't seen the What If series, you got to go watch it. Because they're bringing in aspects of this What If into this movie, and it's very relevant.
And it's really good, so it's worth watching.
Yeah, I can't wait for this movie. I'm so hyped. I love the fact that the Darkhold and the Book of Ashanti is going to be against. That book is basically used to counteract and pull the spells from the Darkhold. Counteract the spells from the Darkhold. I think Wanda is being possessed by the Darkhold. I think she goes down that deep path, and they use the Book of Ashanti to pull her out of that and to save her. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, a lot yet to be seen, and you know what? We're probably going to get a few more teasers.
How hyped are you about this movie?
That trailer just totally set me off now.
Oh my God, it lit the fuse.
I'm so excited.
It lit the fuse. I'm telling you, it's probably... I had some, MoonKnight obviously is probably my most anticipated, and Batman obviously, until I saw that clip of Batman. Now I'm kind of wavering a little bit. I'm like, man, that clip wasn't great. But we'll see. But this trailer set me off. Like, I am stoked for this trailer.
Yeah, we should be excited about it. I think it's going to be great, and I think Kevin Feige has come out and said that this movie is really going to set the stage for a lot of what's happening in Marvel Phase 4 and Phase 5 going forward. I've got some theories around where they're going with this and what the plans are for the next, kind of big, we had the first 3 years or first 3 stages of Marvel movies, the 10 years that they did, really were what we can call the Infinity Saga, right? It was all leading up to Ultimate confrontation with Thanos and
Endgame, yeah,
and the Endgame movie and the Infinity Gauntlet.
You think it's Secret Wars?
Yeah, I think that's where they're going with
I agree with you, absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
I think
they're building the stage for Secret Wars.
Yeah, they're building the stage for Secret Wars. So I think
it's going to be sick.
Yeah,
how exciting is this?
Yeah, well, I mean, so there again, I don't want to get into too much detail about this, but there are 2 versions of the Marvel Secret Wars in the comic books. There was the original version from back in the 80s. Which is really, again, we talked about this previously in a previous episode. It was made up by Marvel to appease the Hasbro company so they could sell more toys. And that was one with the Beyonder, where they went off to Battle World, and they had all these different battles between evil people and heroes. And that was the first Secret Wars. The second Secret Wars was a multiverse arc in the comics. It was it was the Ultimates universe and the main Marvel universe basically squaring off, and some crap happened, and ultimately they combined at the end of it. But this is a way for them to look all the things that they have to do. They got to introduce the Fantastic Four. They got to introduce mutants back into the MCU.
Yep.
All these Fox properties and Fox characters. Some actors are going to bring back. Some they're going to recast. We don't know any of this. But what a great way to kind of bring them all back into the same universe. And we've talked about the Spider-Verse as well. All these characters from the Sony universe, how do they bring them back in? Or will they bring them back in? Well, this is a way to do it. And Secret Wars is the way to do all of that.
The multiverse is the key to bringing all this together. And introducing that in this movie and Loki, as well as Spider-Man, is huge. I mean, this sets the tone for what we're going to see.
I think this movie is going to be off the charts good and really set the stage for some crap that's going to be happening.
Sam Raimi, he did the first 3 Spider-Man movies. Evil Dead. I mean, he's no stranger to horror flicks and comic book flicks, superhero flicks and horror flicks. This is his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. And
me too.
And I think the hype behind this is going to only escalate. You know, we're going to be talking about this, maybe not as much as we did about Spider-Man, but we'll be talking about this movie for the next couple of months until it comes out, for sure.
I'm telling you, I think the Darkhold and the Book of Ashanti and what we're going to see, that's going to be one of the main plots in this movie, and it's exciting.
All right, well, let's move into our topic of the week, and we're going to break down and talk about the Illuminati, since we got kind of what we thought was a vision of the Illuminati in the Doctor Strange trailer. Well, let's talk about who the Illuminati are in the comic books and the history behind them and how they came about and how it might relate to this movie and what's going forward. And, of course, this is brought to us by our friends over at Studio GG Studios.
Studio GG Studios, home of the Man Band, corner of the Cobb. Awesome.
Yeah, we love you guys. Keep up the good work. We're expecting some new stuff from you guys pretty soon, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And
Black Viper's still out there.
Black Viper is still on every YouTube, the end of every YouTube show, and will be for the rest of the year.
All right, well let's get into it. So again, in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness trailer, Doctor Strange is brought up in front of a council of individuals who we believe is kind of that movie's version of the Illuminati. And so who is the Illuminati, right? So,
which, by the way, I think Marvel is fucking with us, and those characters are in the seats, but they've erased them. They digitally erased
just like
them.
they did with the Spider-Man trailers.
I think they're fucking with us. I think they are there because Mordo walks by. You can see his staff
with his ponytail.
You can see him walk by.
And the other theory is that Mordo is not our Baron Mordo.
He's a variant.
He's from a variant from a different multiverse.
I would think so.
And because we saw him in the first trailer say, the biggest threat to the multiverse is you, and kind of like talking about his other variants and stuff like that, and he is a variant himself. So yeah, so we'll kind of get into, but let's talk about who the Illuminati are. And to your point, those chairs are probably populated in that scene. They've
Absolutely.
just been digitally removed so that we don't see who those people are.
Yeah, because we start making huge assumptions.
And there's been some concept art that's come out from the movie as well that shows Professor X, Charles Xavier, in his hovering wheelchair up on that stage, and he's the one potentially right behind Doctor Strange when he walks in, and so you can't see him because that would be a dead giveaway, right?
Sure, yeah.
And again, we heard theories, months ago that Wanda and Professor X are going to battle in this show or in the movie, and they may have some kind of knockdown, drag out fight and all this other stuff. So anyway,
but he's the leader of the Illuminati.
Now I wouldn't say the leader. So let's talk about it. So how did the Illuminati come together? There was so after Marvel Secret Wars, the first one back in the 80s, Marvel then went through several different, we'll say, crossover events throughout the comic books. Every few years they would have one. And there was a crossover event called the Kree Skrull War, and we got introduced to the Krees and the Skrull in the Captain Marvel movie. The characters, the Skrulls are from a planet and they have the ability to shapeshifters. They can change the way that they look, and they can basically look like anybody.
Well, Ronan, the Kree we've known about for quite some time.
Well, Ronan we saw in the Guardians of the Galaxy first movie, and then we got a little bit more of the Kree in the Captain Marvel movie.
Right.
We got a bunch of Kree stuff in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and there's a lot of other kind of allusions to the Kree. But they're two mortal enemies. Those two alien races hate each other and they battle all the time. Well, ultimately, there was a war that occurred on Earth. It was the Kree Skrull War on Earth. And it was a big battle, and lots of people got hurt and injured, and lots of civilian casualties. And after that occurred, Iron Man decided to pull together leaders from a bunch of different groups across Marvel to kind of say, hey, let's talk about what just happened. And the first appearance of this was in the New Avengers number 7. Actually, I have a New Avengers number 6 sitting up here right now. I couldn't find number 7. I guess I don't own it. But in the New Avengers number 7 was when this happened. And it was the original members of the Illuminati were Mr. Fantastic, Namor, Black Bolt, Professor X, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man. And Iron Man put this group together, and basically the genesis of this group was, hey, this really bad thing just happened.
Yeah.
And some of us knew about this threat and didn't say anything about it. And had we just communicated with each other and worked together, we could have prevented this thing from ever happening.
Brilliant minds from all different aspects.
So each one of the members of the Illuminati was a leader of a specific team of individuals, and they were representative of those teams in the Illuminati. But they were also individually superpowered and also super smart.
Yeah.
So they're all the most brilliant minds amongst the groups of individual super teams, but they are also very powerful superheroes themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they each had their own powers. Mr. Fantastic, Lisa Fantastic Four, one of the most brilliant scientists. Reed Richards, one of the most brilliant scientists on the planet, right? Namor, an incredibly powerful mutant in charge of the Atlantean race. I mean, he's the king of Atlantis, right? We had Black Bolt, who's the king of the Inhumans, and also probably one of those most powerful superheroes on the planet. Professor X, probably the most powerful mind on the planet, as well as a leader of the X-Men. We had Doctor Strange, who was the Sorcerer Supreme, right, in charge of all the mystic arts.
Supernatural.
And all the supernatural. And then we had Iron Man in charge of the Avengers and also a brilliant scientist. So he's like, look, we've got the greatest minds, some powerful people here. We should start working together. And at that time, they agreed, okay, if there's a threat that we all need to be aware of or something that needs our attention, we should start working together as a team. And we're going to keep every meeting we have secret. Nobody can know about it because all that's going to do, if they find out we're meeting, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Now, within the team of the Illuminati, they still didn't trust each other.
Yeah.
They still didn't believe that they were,
especially
on the up and
Namor.
up, right? Because they all had reasons to distrust each other for lots of different reasons. But they at least had this cooperative agreement. And then they decided that they would look for opportunities to help each other in the future. They, at one point in time, as a group, the Illuminati, went to the Skrull homeworld and invaded because they were basically trying to get information. They were captured, and the Skrulls did experiments on them and actually were able to pull some information out of most of them. Ultimately, they were able to escape. Iron Man was able to help, promote an escape, and they were able to leave. But they were able to uncover kind of a plot of an impending invasion of Earth coming down the road in the future that the Skrulls were planning. And it was like one of the things that they were trying to find out when they went
invasion.
there. And that ultimately became Secret Invasion many years later. But that was one of the reasons they went there. They did, the Beyonder I mentioned was a superpowered being who kind of was in charge of the first Secret Wars. They convinced him that he was an Inhuman. They thought that he was potentially a mutant with an X gene that was also an Inhuman who had been transformed by the Terrigen Mist, and ultimately they used Black Bolt as his king to convince him to kind of put himself in an alternate dimension so he wouldn't affect or hurt anybody anymore, and they were able to do that. And they kind of did that as a group collectively, right? When the Infinity War happened, after that event happened, they decided as a group to go off and try to collect the Infinity Gems themselves so they would no longer be a threat. And once they got all the Infinity Gems, they tried to use the Infinity Gems to basically destroy the Infinity Gems. They were unsuccessful. They weren't able to be destroyed. And so ultimately, each one of the members of the Illuminati was entrusted with one of the Infinity Gems, of keeping it safe or hiding it somewhere so it couldn't be used for bad purposes any longer. And so that was one of the things that they did there as well. One of the most popular stories that the Illuminati was involved with was the Hulk. So they collectively, the Hulk had just destroyed Las Vegas. So he had been on a rampage and destroyed Las Vegas, lots of civilian casualties, and they're like, look, we need to do something about this. The group got together and said, we feel that we have a way that we could capture the Hulk and jettison him off to some planet that's uninhabited, and allow him to live out the rest of his days without any other living beings, and that's frankly, the Hulk's told us that, Bruce Banner's told us that that's what he wants. He just wants to not hurt anybody anymore, just live out his days and die. So they captured the Hulk, put him in a spaceship, and shot him off into space, and we're going to send him off to this uninhabited planet. Well, they ended up, the spaceship that they sent him off in ended up getting diverted, crash landed on Sakaar.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of got the Hulk.
Part of Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, the Planet Hulk, what we called Planet Hulk version of the Hulk storyline, where he ends up on Sakaar. He's captured. He's made to fight as a gladiator in the arena. And then he ends up freeing all the other gladiators and creating an uprising. He ends up becoming, king of that planet, ultimately. And then what happens is the spaceship that he was sent there on blows up and ends up killing his wife and unborn child. And it completely sends him on a rampage. And he's like, I'm going to get those MFers who sent me here.
The Illuminati.
Thinking that they were the ones responsible. Well, it ended up coming out that it was some other people on the planet Sakaar that made that happen. But he was on a rampage for revenge against the Illuminati. And he took a group of soldiers from Sakaar back to Earth and said, I'm going to wreck house. And I'm going to make all these Illuminati pay. And so he, comes to New York, and he's like, actually, first thing he does is come to the moon where the Inhumans are, and he defeats Black Bolt with no problem. And then he warns Earth, hey, I'm coming, and New York's next, so get ready. He's spared, like Professor X wasn't with the Illuminati at the time because of some things that were going on in the X-Men comics. He was kind of not even part of the X-Men at the time, so we spared him. Namor was the only one that didn't want to send him off planet, so he kind of spared him. But all the others, he was basically just completely wrecking. And that was the whole World War Hulk comic book storyline. It was a big crossover event of the Hulk coming back and exacting revenge on the people that sent him away. And again,
specifically the Illuminati.
The Illuminati.
Yeah.
And again, we've heard that Mark Ruffalo is going to be doing a standalone Hulk movie, and we've also heard, or potentially heard, that was going to be the World War Hulk storyline.
Wow.
And so to have that storyline and introduce the Illuminati in the MCU
would make sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to potentially happen over the next 2 or 3 years with Marvel. But anyway, that was, and then ultimately the Civil War storyline, which we kind of got a bit of a movie of that in the MCU, Marvel, the Captain America Civil War. But this was it was a little bit more widespread in the comic books. It was really about the Superhuman Registration Act. It wasn't the Sokovia Accords that we had in the Marvel movie, but it was, hey, everybody with superpowers on the planet should register themselves because they're basically super weapons and they should be registered. And we're going to enact this law that everybody that has superpowers has to be registered, and if they don't, they're going to be captured and jailed and imprisoned. And there were some heroes, like Captain America, who didn't believe that was the right thing to do. And then there were people like Iron Man who were wholeheartedly behind it. And that really split the Illuminati because there were members of the Illuminati who felt they sided with both sides, right? So, Mr. Fantastic was very much in favor of the Superhuman Registration Act and worked directly with Iron Man to help not only be part of that, but enforce it. But then Doctor Strange was like, no, I don't think this is a good thing. And
Namor the same. He did not want to be there.
Right, exactly. He's very independent. So that split the Illuminati a little bit. And at the end of the Civil War, we had, Secret Invasion, and there was a bunch of stuff that went on there. And Tony Stark at the time was in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. But then you found that there were so many characters that were Skrulls. Like Hank Pym was a Skrull, and Elektra was a Skrull. And I mean, there were so many Skrulls, and all of a sudden they didn't know if they could trust each other anymore because one of them might have been a Skrull. And that was really kind of a big part of the downfall of the Illuminati group in the comic books was the Secret Invasion storyline, and ultimately after that was called Dark Reign, where Norman Osborn kind of is taking over and setting up things like the Dark Avengers and things like that to kind of, get his way of things going forward. So there's a lot of stuff that happened in that storyline as well. But that's kind of where the Illuminati came from in the comic books, and I believe we're going to see a version of that in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Whether they stay true to the comics or not, we don't know.
Well, we don't know. I'm not sure if it's the exact same team members, but it's going to be some of them. And I believe Captain Carter might be one of those new members that we didn't hear of. But I think their intentions are similar. I think their motivation is similar. I would not be surprised if they're involved in things going forward, including potentially a World War Hulk storyline, sending him off and then him having to come back. Wouldn't be surprised if they're involved in the Secret War storyline to some extent. So, I mean, I think that it's just setting the stage for a lot of things going forward of having this body of superpowered individuals who have a lot of influence and control over things, kind of directing things from a central location, and people not being happy with it. So we'll see where that goes.
Huge. Illuminatis could be a standalone movie in the future. They're definitely, I agree with you, Professor, they're definitely setting up a lot of different teams: Young Avengers, Dark Avengers, the Illuminati, Defenders. I think they're setting up a lot of different teams, the Thunderbolts possibly. So it gives them a ton of options down the road. Kevin Feige has said that Endgame was the last Avengers movie.
No, you see, I don't read too much into that. He said when we got the last Avengers movie, so that was the one that just happened, the last Avengers. I don't think it's the last Avengers movie.
I agree with you. I don't think it's the last. I think Young Avengers could still happen.
People are reading a lot into that. When he said when we had the last Avengers movie, it was kind of the end of a chapter. And I'm like, well, people were thinking he means that's the last Avengers movie. I think he meant the one that just happened, which was the last one.
I hope you're right. I think that he is going to move forward with a whole new team and a whole new team of different
I think we'll see another Avengers movie, and probably it won't be for 3 years, but I think ultimately we'll need to have another Avengers movie to kind of
tie everybody together.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it be the Dark Avengers, Young Avengers, Illuminati,
right.
Thunderbolts.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Professor. Thanks for that recap of the Illuminati. Let's ring the bell.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or @supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
And we're out.
All right.
Thank you, YouTube. Please
Thanks,
like
YouTube.
and subscribe.
Black Viper. Everyone likes this game. Haters gonna hate. And I know you can't wait to see the Black Viper. Round and round she goes. Hardly no one knows.